Hello and welcome to the Daily Roundup. I am Sumedha.
I'm Anushka, and let's take a look at the top stories for today.
The Karnataka political crisis is still on. NRC is triggering the very anxiety that it wanted to resolve. Workers at the Salem steel plant are staging a protest. The assembly session in Uttar Pradesh has been adjourned over a law and order situation in the state. In our international section, we'd be looking at Ilhan Omar and the introduction of the BDS bill in the US House of Representatives, and the US which is now trying to channel more funds to the Venezuelan opposition. For our first story, we're again focusing on the Karnataka political crisis. The crisis is still on while the assembly has been adjourned with the rebel MLAs missing from the house. The BJP MLAs are also threatening to spend the night in the house. Karnataka Governor Vajubhai Vala on Thursday had ordered Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar to hold the floor test on Thursday itself. Earlier in the day today, the Karnataka Assembly discussed a motion on trust vote. This came a day after the Supreme Court had passed an interim order saying that the 15 MLAs from the Congress and the Janata Dal Secular cannot be forced to attend the assembly proceedings. The court had also granted Ramesh Kumar the liberty to decide on the MLAs' resignations within the appropriate time frame. The floor test comes as we have been seeing that the Supreme Court has also said that the MLAs in Karnataka ought not to be compelled to participate in the proceedings. And the session of the assembly, which is virtually sounding the death knell for Kumaraswamy government. If the resignations of the 15 MLAs are accepted, or if they stay away from the assembly, the ruling coalition's tally will plummet to about 102, reducing the government to a minority. So we'll keep updating you on this story. But moving on, we're also talking about the National Register of Citizens. The National Register of Citizens is triggering the very anxiety that it wanted to resolve in the state of Assam. There are very few days which are left for the final list of Assam's National Register of Citizens to be published. The NRC is redefining what it means to be a citizen of India. The final list, which will be out on the 31st of July, is sealing the fate of close to 42 lakh residents of the state of Assam. Many can end up losing their right to call themselves the citizens of India. Newsclick exclusively spoke to Hiren Gohain, who is a Sahitya Akademi awardee, poet, social scientist, on the implications of NRC and what it could mean for the state of Assam and for the rest of the country. Take a look. With the kind of protests, there were a lot of protests in the state against the citizenship amendment bill as well. And sedition charges were pressed against you as well in the process. So how difficult was that, and how turbulent are situations still for those conscious citizens to keep fighting?
See, it's a very puzzling thing. On the one hand, the BJP reassures people again and again. They will follow the Assam Accord to the letter.
Yeah.
They are going to fulfill it. The Congress had bungled it or have neglected it. They are going to sort of, turn it into reality. Yeah. And now they say that they also want to get this cab to come in, which is a very negation of the Assam Accord.
Yeah.
So both these things are being maintained at the same time. And I don't know how people are persuaded that this can go together. But there have been protests about this, and people very, many Assamese national bodies, they call themselves National Jatiyatavadi, this and that. They have also protested that this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways, But the powers that be, that they don't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you feel that there is an attack on these conscious voices?
Of course they are. Because, the very idea of fairness, very idea of justice, equal justice for all,
yes,
that is a promise of our Constitution, that sticks in the gizzard of some people,
For our next story, we're focusing on Chennai, where the workers at the Salem steel plant are staging a protest. The workers belonging to the steel plant staged a protest in front of the government guest house in Chennai today against the Narendra Modi government's move to privatize it. The protest was addressed by the leaders of all political and trade union leaders, including the BMS, the trade union associated to the ruling BJP. M. Shamanugam, the MP of the DMK affiliated Labour Progressive Front, A. Soundarajan from C2, Tamil Nadu Congress Committee President K.S. Alagiri, and many other leaders from the BMS also participated in the demonstration. Take a look at this ground report.
The Government of India has declared a national steel policy in 2017. In the steel policy also, the Government of India has given importance for the improvement of stainless steel industry. But unfortunately, the Modi government, BJP government, during its tenure one, has adopted a destructive policy towards the public sector undertakings, which were once defined as the modern industrial temples of India. So the public sector undertakings are the backbone of the Indian economic development, industrial development, and for employment generation, and for also providing social justice.
The assembly session in UP, the first day of the assembly session, has been adjourned over a law and order situation. 12 people of the Sonbhadra region have died over land dispute. Among these, 3 are women. In another case in the Samhal district, 2 cops were gunned down by prisoners while they were coming back from their trial hearing in Moradabad. Later, the prisoners also fled the spot. Post this, the assembly session was adjourned on the first day of its functioning. These instances are coming at a time when UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has been lauding the law and order situation in the state and advising the other states to follow the UP model. Now we'll be moving on to the international section, for which we have with us Anushka.
We begin with the US, where Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has introduced a resolution in the House of Representatives that seeks to affirm the right to participate in boycotts in pursuit of civil and human rights at home and abroad. The resolution does not specifically mention the global boycott, divestment and sanctions BDS movement in solidarity with Palestine, but Omar has said the resolution would be an opportunity to talk about the campaign. The resolution is significant in the light of a number of anti-BDS legislations that have been introduced in various US states and other parts of the world. Earlier, senior members of the Democratic Party in the House had introduced a non-binding anti-BDS resolution too. Omar's resolution seeks to protect a US citizen's right to participate in protests and boycott campaigns against the government and also other countries as an extension of the First Amendment rights that protect freedom of expression in the US. The resolution also asks the House to oppose unconstitutional legislative efforts to criminalize such non-violent protests and boycott movements. Ilhan Omar, who represents the state of Minnesota, has taken on the foreign policy establishment of the US on issues such as Venezuela too. Her positions and popularity among the progressive sections has led both President Donald Trump and her own colleagues in the Democratic Party to target her on a number of occasions. Just a few days ago, Trump, in an explicitly racist tweet, called on her and 3 of her congressional colleagues to go back to where they came from. We continue with the United States, with President Donald Trump planning to divert over $40 million of aid meant for Central America to the leader of the Venezuelan coup attempt, Juan Guaido. The funds were originally meant for humanitarian aid to Guatemala and Honduras, where US intervention has led to instability and waves of migration. Instead, this money will be used for operational expenditures by Juan Guaido team. Guaido had launched his coup attempt in January by declaring himself interim president, although the legitimate president Nicolas Maduro had won the election in May 2018 with over 67% of the vote. While Guaido did not manage to get much support in his own country, The US and its allies in Latin America and Europe were quick to recognize him. In the subsequent months, he tried to violate the sovereignty of Venezuela's borders, called on the army to launch a rebellion, and sought foreign military intervention in the country, but failed each time as the people of Venezuela were firmly behind their legitimate government led by Maduro. Last month, the Venezuelan government launched an investigation into massive corruption involving aid in which Guaido and his close aides are suspects. Despite this, the Trump administration continues to channel funds to Guaido and his group in a bid to somehow overthrow the existing constitutionally elected government. Now let's go to Africa. The recent agreement signed in Sudan between the military junta and certain sections of the civilian oppositions has caused divisions in the opposition camp. This is due to the fact that the new agreement has allowed the military junta to go back on its promises on certain key issues. These issues include the composition of the Legislative Council, the power to appoint cabinet ministers, and the nature of an inquiry commission to probe the human rights abuses committed by the junta. The Sudanese Professionals Association, which has been in the forefront of civilian protests, has rejected the agreement, as has the Sudanese Communist Party. The agreement itself was signed in the absence of many of the key members of the opposition coalition, including the SPA and the SCP. It was the opposition centrist parties that reached an accord with the junta. Various sections of the opposition say that the agreement is merely an attempt to postpone decision on key issues. Now over to the world of sports. The fixtures of the second round of qualification for the 2022 FIFA World Cup and the 2023 Asian Cup are out. India have been grouped alongside reigning Asian champions Qatar, Oman, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan in the Group E. There are 8 groups in this round of qualification. After these round of matches, the top sides from the groups and the 4 best runners-up teams will progress to the third round of the World Cup qualifiers. The 12 teams which progress will also gain automatic qualification for the 2023 AFC Asian Cup. Newsclick's 420 grams team caught up with former Indian football team skipper Renedy Singh to discuss the draw as well as India's chances for qualification. Here's a small clip from the episode. Take a look.
In a World Cup qualifying, I think you will not get any easy team. Of course, yes, Bangladesh is the one I think which is beatable, but Afghanistan is also going to be equally tough. So you are not going to get any easy group at all. So whatever group we get, I think we just have to keep on going and fight for it.
No, but if you take a look at the other groups, Renedy bhai, I mean, of course, you've got Oman, you've got Qatar, which are the Asian champions, but you can think of getting maximum points versus Afghanistan, versus Bangladesh, which in turn would sort of tell you that you have a good chance of making the Asian Cup. It's not the World Cup we're focusing on, but the Asian Cup.
Yes, but then we have to see that, Oman, of course, yes, we can fight, but Qatar is a team where Asian champions, and we all know that how they beat Japan. So it's going to be one really tough opponent. But Afghanistan, they may be on 149 in the ranking, but ranking doesn't work. But Afghanistan is a good side. And if you see the last matches we have played against Afghanistan, it was not easy at all. So again, at home, yes. At home, Oman, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. At home, we should be able to get a result, a point. But going Afghanistan away is going to be one hell.
And with this, it's a wrap on this episode of the Daily Roundup. To follow these stories and many more, log on to our website www.newsclick.in, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.